Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Sunday, January 27th, 2019. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's Men's Australian Open Final, and then I'm going to recap yesterday's college basketball NBA, and then the NHL All-Star Game. Look ahead to today's college basketball and NBA games, and my best bet of the day. So, short podcast today. Men's Australian Open Final, Novak Djokovic defeats Rafael Nadal in 3 sets. 6-3, then 6-2, then 6-3, all in favor of Djokovic. And he deserves this. He was the best men's tennis player in this tournament, and he was my pick from the start to win this tournament. So, good for Djokovic. And good job on Nadal by giving him a match. And looking forward to the next tennis tournament. A lot of breakout stars in this one to see how they would do in the next one and whatnot, and who bounces back from disappointing tournaments is going to be key storylines for the next one. College basketball, I'm just going to do scores. Number 2, Duke defeats Georgia Tech 66-53. Illinois upsets number 13, Maryland 78-67 at Madison Square Garden. Number 24, Iowa State defeats number 20, Ole Miss 87-73. TCU defeats Florida 55-50. Loyola Maryland defeats Colgate 79-72 in overtime. Ohio defeats Nebraska 70-60. Baylor defeats Alabama 73-68. Number 3, Virginia defeats Notre Dame 82-55. Binghamton defeats Maine 78-66. UMBC defeats New Hampshire 59-51. LU Brooklyn defeats Central Connecticut State 84-71. The Citadel defeats VMI 84-82. IUPUI defeats Detroit Mercy 80-65. Georgia State defeats Texas Arlington 77-71. Number 12 Marquette defeats Xavier 87-82. Number 21 NC State defeats Clemson 69-67. Number 23 Louisville defeats Pitt 66-51. Davidson defeats St. Louis 54-53. Georgia defeats Texas 98-88. VCU defeats Duquesne 80-74. Oklahoma State defeats South Carolina 74-70. Army defeats Lafayette 69-63. Ohio defeats Ball State 78-74. Delaware defeats Drexel 76-75. Texas A&M upsets Kansas State 65-53. Lehigh defeats Boston University 94-78. Harvard defeats Dartmouth 64-59. Eastern Michigan defeats Western Michigan 93-67. Hofstra defeats Towson 84-61. That's 16 straight for Hofstra now. Dayton defeats Fordham 75-52. Wisconsin defeats Northwestern 62-46. Albany defeats Hartford 84-77. South Alabama defeats UL Monroe 78-72. Niagara defeats Monmouth 75-48. Utah Valley defeats Chicago State 74-60. Holy Cross defeats Navy 69-64. Miami of Ohio defeats Bowling Green 67-53. Jacksonville State defeats Morehead State 77-71. Number 1 Tennessee defeats West Virginia 83-66. Howard defeats Delaware State 80-74. American defeats Bucknell 76-68. Morgan State defeats Bethune-Cookman 77-71. New Orleans defeats Incarnate 67-52. Utah State defeats New Mexico 68-66. Oakland defeats UIC 80-67. Florida A&M defeats Coppin State 72-70. Appalachian State defeats Little Rock 77-73. Northeastern defeats James Madison 78-68. Charleston defeats William & Mary 74-59. Presbyterian defeats Winthrop 99-91. Montana State defeats Idaho State 104-84. Boise State defeats Wyoming 77-52. Colorado State defeats Fresno State 74-65. Pacific defeats Portland 74-70. North Carolina A&T defeats North Carolina Central 51-48. Missouri State defeats Bradley 55-37. Fairleigh Dickinson defeats Bryant 78-63. Oklahoma defeats Vanderbilt 86-55. Washington defeats Oregon State 69-79. Or vice versa, I should say. UTSA defeats Old Dominion 74-73. Alon defeats UNC Wilmington 89-82. South Florida defeats East Carolina 77-57. Southeast Louisiana defeats Northwestern State 69-53. McNeese defeats Houston Baptist 79-73. Boston College defeats Wake 65-61. Abilene Christian defeats Central Arkansas 79-56. Tennessee Martin defeats SIU Edwardsville 85-69. Sanford defeats Furman 73-75. Belmont defeats Austin P 96-92. Western Illinois defeats South Dakota 65-59. South Carolina Upstate defeats Longwood 80-63. Rutgers defeats Penn State 64-60. Louisiana Tech defeats Western Kentucky 62-50. Southern Miss defeats Marshall 101-51. That's a big win for Southern Miss. Akron defeats Northern Illinois 67-65. Coastal Carolina defeats Arkansas State 77-64. UNT Greensboro defeats Mercer 81-88. St. Francis Brooklyn defeats Mount St. Mary 74-67. Robert Morris defeats Wagner 57-51. Georgia Southern defeats Texas State 74-58. South Dakota State defeats Omaha 83-73. Southeast Missouri State defeats Eastern Illinois 64-59. Charleston Southern defeats Gardner-Webb 74-60. Prairie View defeats Mississippi Valley State 89-78. Number 8 Kentucky defeats number 9 Kansas 71-63 in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. That was the biggest game of the day. Number 14 Texas Tech defeats Arkansas 67-64. Number 25 LSU comes back and defeats Missouri 86-80 in overtime. Alabama State defeats Alcorn State 74-59. SMU defeats Tulane 85-75. Hampton defeats Campbell 64-58. St. Bonaventure defeats Richmond 66-57. Jackson State defeats Grambling 65-63. Savannah State defeats SC State 92-88. UConn defeats Wichita State 80-60. North Texas defeats Middle Tennessee 70-53. Sam Houston State defeats Lamar 69-59. Norfolk State defeats Maryland Eastern 88-60. Vermont defeats Stony Brook 73-52. Wright State defeats Green Bay 87-75. FIU defeats FIU 89-72. Siena defeats Manhattan 53-40. High Point defeats UNC Asheville 65-61. Toledo defeats Central Michigan 76-72. Columbia defeats Cornell 73-70. St. Francis, Pennsylvania defeats Sacred Heart 79-78. Cleveland State defeats Youngstown State 72-62. UMKC defeats Seattle 63-54. Tennessee Tech defeats Eastern Kentucky 91-85. Wofford defeats Chattanooga 80-69. Purdue Fort Wayne defeats Denver 91-81. Northern Kentucky defeats Milwaukee 73-70. Alabama A&M defeats Southern 68-62. East Tennessee State defeats Western Carolina 91-69. George Mason defeats George Washington 62-55. Penn defeats St. Joe's 78-70. Number 10 Virginia Tech defeats Syracuse 78-56. Northern Colorado defeats Northern Arizona 63-48. Northern Iowa defeats Evansville 81-74. Utah defeats Cal 82-64. North Dakota State defeats Oral Roberts 67-57. Stanford defeats Colorado 75-62. Pepperdine defeats St. Mary's 84-77 in overtime. Murray State defeats Tennessee State 100-62. San Diego State defeats UNLV 94-77. USC defeats Arizona State 69-67. Drake defeats Valparaiso 70-59. UAB defeats Rice 89-86. New Mexico defeats UT Rio Grande 63-61. Louisiana defeats Troy 86-81. Number 22 Mississippi State defeats number 16 Auburn 92-84. Arkansas Pine Bluff defeats Texas Southern 90-86. UTEP defeats Charlotte 57-53. Air Force defeats San Jose State 73-71 in double overtime. Montana defeats Weber State 75-68. Loyola Marymount defeats Santa Clara 69-61. UCLA defeats Arizona 90-69. Santa Barbara defeats Long Beach State 82-71. Grand Canyon defeats Cal Baptist 90-73. UC Irvine defeats UC Riverside 82-64. Cal State Fullerton defeats Cal Poly 80-63. San Diego defeats San Francisco 67-63. Eastern Washington defeats Sacramento State 94-92 in overtime. Portland State defeats Idaho 63-59. And Hawaii defeats UC Davis 80-60. Today's game is at 12 o'clock on Fox. You have Georgetown at St. John's. St. John's is favored by 7. They need to win this game more than Georgetown does. St. John's will win at Madison Square Garden on its home floor to sweep Georgetown for the season series. DePaul and Providence. Providence favored by 5.5. They'll win and cover. CBS Sports Network, Cincinnati at Temple. Cincy's favored by 3.5. I like Temple at home getting the points, and I think they win outright. Wesley, Princeton, 1 o'clock CBS. Number 6, Michigan State at Purdue. Michigan State's only favored by 1. Trap game, perhaps. Michigan State, I just can't bet against that team until they lose, so give me Michigan State on the road. Iona at Fairfield. Number 17, Houston at Tulsa. 2 o'clock ESPN News. Houston's favored by 7.5. I think Houston wins, but Tulsa covers. St. Peter's at Quinnipiac. Rhode Island at UMass. Rhode Island is favored by 3. They should win and cover. Indiana State and Illinois State. 2 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. Illinois State's favored by 4. I think they win and cover. Liberty and Jacksonville. Marist at Rider. 2:30 on Fox. Seton Hall at number 18, Villanova. Villanova's favored by 8.5, and I think they'll win and cover. 4 o'clock, North Alabama and NJIT. On CBS Sports Network, you have UCF at Memphis. Memphis is favored by 2. I like how they've been playing in conference play, and give me the Tigers to win as a 2-point home favorite. I don't feel super about it, but I'll roll with it. Southern Illinois, Loyola, Chicago on ESPNU. Loyola's a 5-point favorite. I think they win and cover. Lipscomb and Stetson. 5 o'clock, Fox Sports 1, number 19, Iowa at Minnesota. Iowa's a 1-point favorite. I think Minnesota wins at home as a 1-point dog. They need the game more than Iowa. And then you have North Florida, Florida Gulf Coast, 6 o'clock ESPNU, Florida State at Miami. Florida State's a 3.5-point favorite. Tough call. Miami's due for a win, and Florida State's fallen off. But I'm going to go with the opposite. I think Florida State wins and covers. And 8 o'clock on ESPNU, Washington State at Oregon. Oregon's favored by 13. I think they win and cover. NBA. Couple games last night. The Spurs defeat the Pelicans 126-114. The Grizzlies defeat the Pacers 106-103. The Warriors defeat the Celtics 115-111 on Saturday primetime. Big win for the Warriors. Celtics had their chances. They probably should have won the game, but Golden State made the big plays down the stretch. Nuggets defeat the 76ers 126-110, and the Trailblazers defeat the Hawks 120-111. Couple games today at 3:30, you have the Cavaliers at the Bulls, the Kings at the Clippers. 6 o'clock ESPN, the Bucks at the Thunder. On the call this game will be Mark Jones and Doris Burke. Milwaukee's a 1-point road favorite. Guess what? Wrong team's favored. Oklahoma City's going to win, led by Paul George and Russell Westbrook. And the new and improved 3-point shooter, Terrence Ferguson. 7 o'clock, you have the Raptors at the Mavericks, the Magic at the Rockets, the Jazz at the Timberwolves, the Wizards at the Spurs. 7:30, the Heat at the Knicks, Dwayne Wade's final game at the Garden. And 9:30 of the Suns at the Lakers. The NHL-All games last night, the Central defeated the Pacific 10-4. The Metro defeated the Atlantic 7-4. And in the final, the Metro defeated the Central 10-5. The MVP of the All-Star game was Sidney Crosby, who scored 3 goals in the All-Stars. 4 goals altogether in the combined 2 games. Good for Sid. And it was a fun game to watch. A lot of goals. What else is new for All-Star game? Nowadays, goalies really don't try that much. And players shoot a lot, and it's all the best players in the world. And now my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. 16 moneyline parlay, plus 227, wagered $3 with a payout of $9.83. You have the Rockets and the Lakers. In college basketball, Houston, Liberty, and Oregon. And in soccer, Chelsea. That's it for today's podcast. I'll be back tomorrow recapping yesterday's NBA and college basketball games. Look ahead to tomorrow's games in each of those 2 sports. My best bet. Maybe we'll talk about Super Bowl props a little bit. And I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.